What if I told you your thoughts are not really yours? Every habit you repeat, every fear you obey, every limit you accept was programmed slowly, silently, without your permission. From the moment you wake up, your brain is already being controlled by routines, by language, by invisible beliefs you never chose. And here's the disturbing truth. If someone else can control your mind, you can learn to do it too. Not through magic, not through motivation, but through deliberate mental conditioning in mind control. Brainwash yourself to be unstoppable. Tyler Andrew Cole reveals how the same psychological forces that shape obedience, addiction, and fear can be reversed to build discipline, confidence, and unbreakable focus. This isn't about controlling others. It's about taking back the one thing that was quietly taken from you, your mind. Stay with us, because once you hear this, you won't think the same way again. Hello, everyone. Hi, all, and welcome to Book Podcast Zone. I'm Emma, and with me is my co-host, John. Today, we have a deep dive that, well, it absolutely lives up to the name. We're not just scratching the surface of self-improvement today. We are going deep. We're talking about the physical, measurable mechanics of how you can literally change your brain.
That's exactly it. We're drawing from Tyler Andrew Cole's Blueprint for Mental Mastery, and the focus here is all on applied neuroscience. Our whole mission today is to give you a shortcut, a way to get well-informed on how to become unstoppable using actual science-backed strategies.
It's like finally getting the user manual for your own mind. We're going to look at the forces that have, secretly shaped your habits and then hand you the tools to reprogram them. So let's start at the beginning with Chapter 1, Understanding the Power of Your Mind.
Okay, so Cole kicks things off with this really critical idea, this dual nature of the brain.
The tool versus the saboteur.
Exactly. On one hand, it's this unbelievable tool. I mean, it's the only thing we know of in the universe that can actually understand itself. It's capable of incredible creativity, problem solving, just massive achievement.
But, and this is the big but, for most of us, most of the time, it's also the ultimate saboteur.
It actively works against our conscious goals, our best intentions.
And that right there, that just hits home for so many people. It's that feeling of frustration. You know exactly what you should be doing.
You have the plan.
Right. You need to finish that presentation or have that tough conversation or just stick to your workout plan. You have all the knowledge, but something inside just stops you.
An invisible wall. A resistance.
Yes, exactly. An overwhelming resistance. So what is that?
That's the saboteur function kicking in.
Yeah.
You have to remember, the brain evolved for one thing above all else, survival. And a close second is efficiency.
Okay, so it's lazy, basically.
In a way, yes. Its default setting is to conserve metabolic energy and avoid anything that feels like a threat. And a challenging cognitive task like that big presentation, the ancient parts of your brain register that as high cost.
And stressful.
And potentially stressful.
Yeah.
So the saboteur function deploys its weapons. Anxiety, distraction, sudden fatigue, anything to override the goal you consciously set. It's not a moral failure, it's a conflict of programming.
Wow. So the goal then is to stop personalizing it, to stop thinking, I'm just so lazy or I have no discipline.
Precisely. You have to stop analyzing your personality and start analyzing the machine.
So it's not what's wrong with me, but what's the bug in my software?
You've hit it exactly. That shift in perspective is everything. The resistance you feel is just a well-worn neural pathway firing. It's a default script that's been running for years. Once you see it that way, you can get some distance.
You can become the programmer instead of the program.
The brain isn't broken. The software is just outdated. And you can update it.
And recognizing that machine, that system that creates the feeling of being stuck. I mean, how much energy does that internal fight actually burn every day?
A huge amount. Think about it. It's like trying to run a brand new complex video game on a 10-year-old computer that has 20 other programs running in the background.
Your processor is just maxed out.
Your conscious awareness, your mental CPU, is constantly overtaxed, just managing the conflict. The second you stop fighting the feeling and start analyzing the mechanism, all that cognitive energy is freed up for the actual work.
Which brings us to the science that makes all of this possible, neuroplasticity.
This is the absolute core concept. Neuroplasticity is the physical ability of the brain to change its structure, its function, its connections, all throughout your life, based on what you do and what you think. Repeatedly.
We hear that word thrown around a lot these days, but Cole really emphasizes the sheer magnitude of it. Your brain's architecture isn't just set in stone.
It's not just malleable, it's constantly being reshaped, every single second. On a microscopic level, every time you have a thought, neurons fire. And the more they fire together, the stronger that connection gets.
Neurons that fire together wire together.
That's the classic saying, and it's literally true. If you repeatedly think, I'm not good at this, that connection becomes a superhighway. It gets faster, more insulated through a process called myelination. It becomes the path of least resistance.
So the limits we feel in our intelligence or willpower, they aren't really fixed ceilings. They're just the result of the neural roads we've been using the most.
Exactly. And that is why almost everyone radically underestimates their own capacity for change. We look at our current habits and think, well, that's just who I am.
When it's really just the sum total of your past, often unintentional mental
Right.
repetitions.
If you haven't intentionally built a new road, your brain will always take the old familiar highway.
Let's use an analogy to make this really concrete.
Okay, think of a big grassy field. If you walk the exact same path across it every single day, what happens?
You wear a path in the grass.
At first, yeah. But eventually, it's not just a path. It's a deep, clear groove in the dirt. It's easy to walk.
Oh.
Now, what if you decide to take a new route?
It's hard at first. You're pushing through tall grass. It's slow.
Exactly. But if you walk that new path every single day, it becomes clearer, easier. And eventually, the old path from disuse gets overgrown. It disappears. Neuroplasticity is exactly that. Every time you choose the disciplined action over the easy one, you are physically paving a new road in your brain.
You can see this with brain scans, right? The U.S. example of a professional athlete, like an MLB pitcher.
Absolutely. They've perfected this incredibly complex motion through thousands of hours of repetition. If you map their brain, the motor cortex area that controls their throwing arm is physically larger and organized differently than yours or mine.
Right.
Their brain has literally rebuilt itself to optimize for that one specific elite action.
Or look at the U.S. tech sector. Someone learning an advanced skill like coding in a new language. That's not just like downloading a file into your brain.
Not at all. It fundamentally changes the architecture of how you think, how you process logic. fMRI studies show physical changes in the brain's white matter density in people who go through that kind of intense training. It is physical proof. You are quite literally the architect of the mind you use every day.
So the first step is to just become aware of those old paths, those automatic thought patterns running in the background.
Right. The routine mental scripts,
Mm-hmm.
the immediate stress you feel when you open your email, the habitual self-criticism when you make a mistake. Cole points out that these scripts are running on autopilot and the subconscious is driving something like 90–95% of our daily behavior.
Okay, wait. That statistic is honestly, it's terrifying.
It is.
If 95% of my actions are driven by scripts I never consciously wrote, then I'm not really steering my own life. I'm just reacting to old programming.
Which is why the essential first step is to drag those subconscious scripts into the light. You have to move from reactive thinking to intentional thinking.
What's the difference?
Reactive is automatic. The phone buzzes, you grab it, no thought. Your limbic system, the primal part of your brain, is in charge. Intentional thinking requires a pause. Just a microsecond, a little bit of cognitive friction where you notice the impulse and you consciously choose your response.
But that pause, I mean, the resistance you feel in that tiny moment can be huge, especially when the old habit is so easy.
That difficulty is just the old neural highway, screaming for traffic. It's efficient. The book calls this building the observer self. You're learning to watch your thoughts and impulses without being immediately swept away by them.
So when the script says you're too tired to go to the gym, the observer self just notes it.
It just notes it. Ah, there's that automatic energy-conserving thought, and then you choose to put your shoes on anyway. That moment of choice is the first aha moment. You realize you are not your thoughts. You are the operator who decides which thoughts get the power.
And that realization is the perfect setup for tackling the biggest thief of our intentions, procrastination.
Exactly. Once you understand the machine, you can start to debug it.
All right, this is a big one. Before we dive into the root causes of procrastination, just a quick reminder. If you're getting value from this breakdown, a quick like, subscribe, or share helps us reach more people who might need to hear this. Okay, so let's move on. Chapter 2. And let's really dismantle this idea that procrastination is just laziness.
It's the biggest misconception out there. In our high-pressure work culture, especially in the U.S., we see it as a character flaw, a failure of willpower.
Right. You're lazy, you're unmotivated.
And Cole argues that this view is not just wrong, it's actively harmful, because it creates shame, and shame just deepens the cycle of avoidance.
So if it's not laziness, what is it?
At its core, it's an emotional regulation strategy.
An emotional regulation strategy. Unpack that for me.
It means we delay tasks not because we're lazy, but because the task itself triggers negative feelings that we want to avoid. Anxiety, boredom, self-doubt, or the big one, fear of failure.
Okay, the fear of failure one seems a little backward. If you're afraid of failing, why would you put it off, which almost guarantees a worse result?
Because it's a subconscious trick your ego plays to protect itself. For a really high-stakes task, a big career move, a creative project, something you really care about, finishing it means it could be judged.
And it could fail.
And that would be a definitive, painful failure. But if you keep that project perpetually in progress, if you're always just about to finish it.
You never have to face that final judgment. You haven't failed, you just haven't finished trying.
Exactly. The procrastination, the delay, is actually a defense mechanism to manage the anxiety of a potential blow to your self-worth.
Wow, that completely reframes it. It's self-preservation, not apathy.
And this runs right alongside the other huge trigger, overwhelm from perfectionism. This is huge for high achievers. They set the bar for success so impossibly high.
That just starting feels completely insurmountable.
Correct. The gap between where they are and their idea of a perfect outcome is so vast it's paralyzing. The brain looks at that gap and chooses inaction because that provides immediate temporary relief from the anxiety of not being perfect.
So that inaction becomes the reward, which reinforces the habit of procrastinating.
You got it. And you can't shame yourself out of it. You have to address the underlying fear.
So we have these internal triggers: fear, perfectionism, but now we have to layer on the external world, which feels like it's literally engineered to make us procrastinate.
It absolutely is. It's built to exploit our brain's dopamine loop.
The reward chemical.
The motivation molecule, really.
Yeah.
The dopamine system evolved to push us toward good things, but it has a critical flaw in the modern world. It prioritizes immediate, predictable rewards over delayed, abstract ones.
So finishing my huge, complex project will give me a big reward eventually, but checking my phone gives me a little reward right now.
And the brain almost always chooses right now. The project demands high energy from the prefrontal cortex for a reward that might be weeks away. Scrolling social media gives your limbic system a tiny, reliable dopamine hit for almost zero energy. It's an unfair fight.
You can see this in the design of everything. Apps, streaming services. They're built like slot machines.
Variable rewards. You pull the lever by refreshing the feed, and you don't know what you'll get. That unpredictability is what maximizes the dopamine response and keeps you hooked.
Let's talk about that US example of doom scrolling. This happens all the time in the professional world.
Right. Imagine this. You've just come out of a brutal 2-hour meeting or finished a really complex analysis. Your prefrontal cortex, your thinking brain, is tired. It's literally low on glucose.
It's running on fumes.
Exactly. And at that moment, your tired PFC is easily overpowered by the limbic system, which is screaming for comfort and an easy win.
And the easiest win is right there in your pocket.
Your phone. Your brain actively seeks out that low-effort, high-stimulus activity-checking sensational news, scrolling through memes. It's self-medicating your cognitive fatigue with digital candy. Each new post is a tiny, successful reward, even though it's sabotaging your actual work.
And the key is that this is a mechanical process, not a moral one. Your brain is just doing what it's wired to do.
Which is why the solution has to be just as mechanical. We have to stop talking about procrastination in general terms and get really specific about diagnosing our own personal habits.
The sources break this down into 3 stages where the delay happens: planning, starting, or finishing.
And the fix for each is totally different. So first, you have the planning stage procrastinator.
The person with 20 different planners who never actually starts the project.
Exactly. They are paralyzed by the need for the perfect plan. They confuse preparation with progress. The fear here is committing to a flawed path.
Here's the solution.
A hard deadline on planning. You give yourself, say, 30 minutes to plan, and then you must take a messy, tangible first step. Action has to override the desire for a perfect structure.
Okay, then you have the starting stage procrastinator.
Yeah.
This is me sometimes. Just inertia.
This is the person who knows what to do, has the plan, but getting from 0 to 1 feels like climbing a mountain. They'll do anything else. Answer easy emails, clean their desk to avoid starting.
The solution here is the micro start, right?
The 2-minute rule. You make the first step so ridiculously small that your brain doesn't even have time to resist. You're not writing the report. You're opening the document and writing 1 sentence.
You're tricking the brain into building a little momentum.
Because once you have momentum, it's often easier to keep going than to stop. And finally, you have the finishing stage procrastinator.
The person who gets things 90% done and then just stops.
We talked about this. They're avoiding the final judgment. The solution here is purely psychological. adopt the mantra, done is better than perfect. They have to consciously decouple their self-worth from the final outcome.
This is so much more powerful than just saying stop procrastinating. You're giving people a specific diagnosis and a specific prescription.
When you understand the why, it gives you the leverage to finally fix the how.
Which sets us up perfectly for Chapter 3, where we get into the real heavy lifting, the neuroscience of building self-discipline. We'll get into that right after this. If you're enjoying this deep dive, take a second to hit that follow button so you don't miss what's coming next.
Okay, Chapter 3. This is the engine room of the whole book. We're talking about the actual brain science of willpower.
We've talked about the prefrontal cortex, the PFC as the CEO, and the limbic system as the impulsive intern. Let's talk about their fuel source.
The PFC is an energy hog. It runs on glucose, and when you're doing hard mental work-making decisions, planning, resisting temptation, it burns through that glucose like crazy.
So this idea of ego depletion, where your willpower just seems to run out over the course of the day, that's a real physical thing.
It's a measurable metabolic phenomenon. When your PFC is low on fuel, its ability to control the older, more efficient limbic system just plummets.
Which is why you're way more likely to snap at someone or eat a whole pint of ice cream at 10 p.m. than you are at 10 a.m.
Your CEO has left the building. The impulsive intern is running the show. The key takeaway is that self-discipline isn't about brute force. It's about smart energy management.
It's a battle you can train for, but you have to show up with enough fuel to fight.
Exactly. Okay. So the first evidence-based technique for training is dopamine regulation.
We've created a world of infinite, easy dopamine hits. So the goal is to, go on a dopamine fast?
In a sense, yes. It's about strategically cutting out those low-effort pleasures for a period of time. Things like binge-watching shows, endlessly scrolling social media.
You're intentionally starving the limbic system of its cheap junk food.
So that your brain starts to crave the more meaningful, delayed reward that comes from doing hard, important work. You're resetting your reward system to value effort again.
Okay, the next technique is visualization for willpower. Now, I have to admit, this can sound a bit like wishful thinking.
It's a fair point. But this is a critical distinction. We are not talking about just passively dreaming of success. We're talking about active mental rehearsal.
What's the difference?
When an Olympic skier mentally rehearses a downhill run, brain scans show that their motor cortex is firing in almost the exact same sequence as if they were actually on the mountain. They are strengthening the neural circuits for that action without moving a muscle.
So if I know I'm going to face a temptation, I can rehearse defeating it in my mind, and that actually makes the real-life choice easier.
Significantly easier. You're preloading the decision. Let's say you struggle to wake up for an early workout. You would vividly rehearse it. The alarm goes off, you feel the urge to hit snooze, you feel the warmth of the bed, and then you mentally practice swinging your feet onto the floor over and over.
So when the moment actually comes, the path is already paved. The choice is primed.
The PFC enters the battle prepared, not ambushed.
Yeah.
This is practice, not magic.
Which leads to the third tool, which might be the most powerful of all, implementation intentions.
Or if-then planning. This is the structural hack that almost all high achievers use, whether they know the name for it or not.
It seems so simple. If X happens, then I will do Y. Why is it so effective?
Because it completely removes the need for in-the-moment decision-making. That's what drains your PFC's energy. By creating a preset script, you're outsourcing the decision to your subconscious.
So instead of getting home from work and negotiating with yourself, am I too tired to go for a run? The script is already written.
The script is, if I walk through the front door, then I will immediately put on my running shoes. The cue triggers the automated action. There's no debate.
You see this with top CEOs in the US. They don't waste mental energy on small decisions.
They automate everything they can. They wear the same type of outfit every day. They eat the same breakfast. Their intention is, if I wake up, then I will do my 20-minute workout. They're saving all that precious PFC glucose for the huge strategic decisions that actually matter.
So discipline isn't a talent you're born with. It's a cognitive muscle you build by installing these automated systems.
It is entirely trainable. High achievers understand that motivation is a fickle friend, but a good system works every single time.
Which brings us to the other side of the coin, using this same structural knowledge to systematically dismantle our bad habits.
We'll break down that process right after this quick break. Again, if what you're hearing is resonating, we'd love for you to share this deep dive with someone who might benefit from it.
Okay, so Chapter 4 is all about breaking bad habits. To do that, we first have to understand why they're so sticky.
And that comes down to the 4-stage habit loop. This is the neurological blueprint for every habit you have, good or bad.
Let's walk through the 4 stages.
First, you have the cue, the trigger. It could be a time of day, a location, emotion, another person.
Like seeing the couch is a cue to turn on the TV.
Exactly. The cue signals to your brain that a reward is coming, which leads to stage 2, the craving. This is the motivational force. It's the anticipation of the reward.
So you don't just crave the cookie, you crave the feeling of pleasure the cookie will give you.
Precisely. That craving drives stage 3, the response.
Yeah.
This is the actual habit itself, the automated behavior, reaching for your phone, opening the fridge.
And finally, stage 4, the reward. The satisfaction that tells your brain, hey, that worked, let's do it again next time.
And once that loop gets repeated enough, it moves from your conscious PFC to the basal ganglia, the brain's autopilot center. Once it's there, it's incredibly efficient and very hard to consciously stop.
So you can't just fight the urge head on. You have to be strategic and disrupt the loop.
Right. And the most powerful way to do that is the first strategy, environment redesign.
This attacks the cue. If the trigger never appears, the habit never starts.
It's about admitting that your willpower is weak and engineering your surroundings for success. You make the bad choice hard and the good choice easy.
So if you want to stop snacking on junk food, you don't just try to resist it, you get it out of your house.
You don't have it there. And the U.S. grocery store example is perfect. They spend millions on research to place candy and magazines at the checkout line because they know that visual cue will trigger your impulse. Environment redesign is just using those same tricks on yourself, but for your own benefit.
The second strategy is replacement habits. This one attacks the response.
Here, you keep the cue and you satisfy the craving, but you swap the destructive action for a better one.
So for someone who bites their nails when they're anxious,
The cue is anxiety. The craving is for a physical release of that tension. The destructive response is nail biting. A replacement response could be squeezing a stress ball or chewing sugar-free gum.
you're still getting the reward, the tension release, but you've rerouted the path to get there.
The brain is satisfied, but the behavior is now harmless or even helpful.
What about those really powerful cravings, though, like for sugar or endless screen time?
That's where the third strategy, gradual exposure, comes in. This is like
And-
physical therapy for your brain. You intentionally expose yourself to the cue in a controlled way, but you don't act on it.
So you'd put your phone on the table in front of you, see the notifications, and just sit with the urge to check it.
When you watch the craving rise, and then you watch it fall without giving in, you're teaching your brain that a craving is just a suggestion, not a command. It's tough at first, but over time, it lowers the intensity of the urge itself.
So let's apply this framework to some common problems. Emotional eating.
The cue is almost always an emotion. Stress, boredom, loneliness. The craving is for comfort. The bad response is food. The replacement habit has to be something that actually provides comfort.
Like calling a friend or taking a hot bath.
You have to solve the real emotional need, not just numb it with calories.
What about the scrolling addiction we see everywhere?
The cue is often just a micro moment of boredom. The key here is adding friction. A replacement habit could be, if I get the urge to scroll, then I will stand up and do 10 jumping jacks. It sounds silly, but it's often just enough of a physical barrier to break the mindless loop.
And for inconsistent workouts, where the cue is end of the workday and the craving is for rest.
The problem is usually the friction of starting. The solution is to make it frictionless. Lay out your gym clothes the night before, put your gym bag in the front seat of your car so you literally have to move it to drive home, automate the entry point.
And when you track your progress, the book says to focus on the wins, right? The successful interruptions.
Yes. Don't focus on the 2 times you slipped up. Focus on the 7 times you noticed the cue and chose a replacement habit. That's a huge neurological victory. It builds positive momentum instead of shame.
Okay, we've broken down the old machine. This sets us up perfectly to start deliberately building the new one.
This brings us to Chapter 5, Rewiring for Success.
We'll dig into how to actually program your own mind right after this. If you haven't already, now's a great time to hit that subscribe button.
All right, Chapter 5. This is where we get to the heart of the title, brainwashing yourself. And that sounds intense, but it's really just about consciously installing a better operating system.
One that actually supports your goals, instead of the default one you inherited.
We all have one. The goal is to make it an intentional choice.
So if my subconscious is full of these old limiting beliefs, I'm not a morning person, I'm bad with money, how do I even start to rewrite that code?
The first step is to intercept the thought the moment it appears. When that little voice says, this is too hard, you're going to fail, you don't argue with it. You just label it.
Like, that's my saboteur script running.
That's an automatic, energy-conserving thought. And then you immediately reframe the feeling it created, that anxiety you feel. You relabel it as excitement. You tell yourself, this feeling of difficulty is proof that I'm pushing my boundaries. This is where growth happens.
So you're hijacking the energy of the negative thought and using it as fuel.
Every single time you do that, you weaken the old neural pathway and you strengthen the new, empowering one. You are physically rewiring your response to challenge.
This leads us to affirmations. And again, this is an area where a lot of people get skeptical.
And for good reason, because most people do them wrong. Cole stresses that affirmations have to be psychologically believable to work.
So just repeating, I am a millionaire when you're broke doesn't work.
It actually makes you feel worse because your brain knows it's a lie. The key is to tie the affirmation to a verifiable action you are taking right now.
So instead of I am a successful author, it would be
I am becoming a better writer by consistently dedicating 1 hour to my manuscript every morning. You affirm the process, which is true. Your brain accepts that, and it builds real confidence from small, provable wins.
Then there's mental rehearsal, which we touched on. But here it's about solidifying belief.
It's about practicing not just success, but also resilience. If you're afraid of public speaking, you don't just visualize the applause at the end.
You visualize messing up a line.
You visualize someone asking a tough question you don't know the answer to. You feel that moment of panic, and then you rehearse your calm, poised recovery. You practice breathing, collecting your thoughts, and giving a confident response.
You're building a neural template for handling failure.
So when it happens in real life, your brain doesn't panic. It just says, oh, I've run this simulation before. I know this move. Belief isn't something you wish for. It's the result of your track record. And mental rehearsal lets you build that track record before you even step on stage.
This all culminates in the most powerful step, aligning your identity with your goals.
This is the thing that makes change permanent. You have to stop trying to do disciplined things and start being a disciplined person.
So it's not I'm on a diet, it's I'm a person who fuels my body with healthy food.
Exactly. And that identity becomes a filter for all your decisions. When someone offers you a donut, the question isn't, can I resist this? The question is this what a healthy person would eat? The choice becomes simple. It's just a matter of acting in alignment with who you are.
So every time you make the right choice, you're casting a vote for that new identity.
You're proving it to yourself over and over. This creates this incredible upward spiral. Your actions reinforce your identity, and your identity makes your actions easier. It's the ultimate self-fulfilling prophecy.
Now that we have this new programming installed, we have to protect it from the modern world, which seems designed to destroy our focus.
And that's Chapter 6. It's a huge one. We'll dive into how to stay focused in a world of distraction right after this.
All right, Chapter 6, Staying Focused. Cole calls this the 2025 challenge, and that feels about right. It's harder now than ever.
The entire information environment is engineered to fragment our attention. So mastering focus means mastering your environment.
Let's start with the external distractions. The things coming at us.
It's a constant barrage. The 2147 news cycle designed to trigger outrage. The collaborative tools like Slack that create an expectation of being always on, and just the sheer volume of notification.
And every single one is a context switch. It yanks you out of what you're doing.
And the cost isn't just the 30 seconds it takes to read the notification. Research shows it can take up to 20 minutes to get back to that same level of deep concentration you were in before.
20 minutes? That's devastating for productivity.
It is, but then you also have the internal distractions, the mental noise that's there, even when your office is perfectly quiet.
The random thought about whether you paid that bill or replaying an awkward conversation from yesterday.
Exactly. These are open loops in your brain, and they eat up your working memory. Your brain keeps cycling through them, pulling resources away from the task at hand. And often, the brain wants that distraction because deep, focused work is hard. Mind wandering is easy.
So we're fighting both our tools and our own brains. What are the weapons we can use?
The first and most important is the focus block, a non-negotiable, pre-scheduled period of time for deep work only.
How do you structure that for the best results?
You leverage your brain's natural rhythm. For most people, that's about 90 minutes of peak concentration, followed by a 15-20-minute break. And that block has to be sacred. Phone off and in another room, all notifications disabled. You're training your brain that when this block starts, it's time to go deep.
Okay, what about when the internal distractions start during that block?
That's where you need mindfulness, without the fluff. This isn't about meditating for an hour. It's about a simple, practical technique.
The label and return.
The thought pops up. I need to email Sarah. You don't follow it. You gently label it planning. You jot it down on a notepad next to you to get it out of your head, and you immediately return your focus to the task. The key is not to judge yourself for getting distracted. Just notice and return.
And the third tool is just essential for the modern U.S. workplace: tech boundaries.
Hard boundaries. This means having hours where your work phone is off. It means dedicated tech-free zones in your house. And it means being ruthless with notifications. Turn off everything that isn't absolutely mission critical. You have to be the gatekeeper of your own attention.
And this is especially true with remote work, where the lines between work and home are so blurry.
With remote work, you have to artificially create those boundaries. You have a dedicated workspace that is only for work. You have a startup and shutdown ritual at the beginning and end of your day to signal to your brain when it's time to be on and when it's time to be off.
Let's talk about the new elephant in the room: AI tools. They're supposed to make us more productive, but they can be a huge distraction.
This is the great AI paradox. An AI tool can synthesize a report or write code in seconds, which should free up our brains for high-level strategic thinking.
But that's not what happens, is it?
Often, no. The instant feedback and novelty of an AI chat can be incredibly addictive. It delivers a constant stream of low-effort dopamine hits. So instead of doing the hard strategic work, we end up just playing with the tool, going down endless rabbit holes.
So you're procrastinating on high-value work with high-tech busy work.
Precisely. To master this, you have to treat the AI tool as part of a structured focus block. Use an implementation intention. If I use the AI to generate a draft, then I will immediately close the AI window and spend the next 60 minutes editing and adding my own critical thought. The tool must serve your focus, not shatter it.
This structural mastery is the final piece, which leads us to the last chapter, putting it all together to become truly unstoppable.
We'll get to that final integration after this. One last time, if this has been helpful, we'd appreciate a rating or review. It helps others find the show.
All right, Chapter 7, Becoming Truly Unstoppable. This is where we integrate everything we've talked about into one sustainable system.
It's not about using one of these tricks. It's about how they all work together and reinforce each other. Your new identity as a focused person gives you the motivation to stick to your focus blocks. Your successful focus blocks provide the evidence that strengthens your new identity.
It's a closed loop, a self-reinforcing system for high performance.
And the goal is to make this system the new default. To get to a point where being disciplined and focused actually feels easier and requires less energy than being distracted and lazy, that's true mastery.
But what about when you fall off? When you have a bad day, setbacks are inevitable.
And an unstoppable person has a plan for them. The key is to reframe setbacks. They are not failures. They are data points.
I love that. So you don't beat yourself up, you get curious.
You get analytical. Okay, I skipped my workout today. Why? Was I sleep deprived? Was my cue not strong enough? Did I let my blood sugar crash? You treat it like a scientist debugging an experiment. You make a small adjustment to the system, and you get back on track tomorrow. No drama, just data.
And once you've mastered these small habits, you can start to scale them.
Exactly. The brain has now mastered the process of building a good habit. You can apply that same proven process to a much bigger, more ambitious goal. Starting a business, writing a book, learning an instrument. The structure transfers.
And finally, there's accountability.
A mix of internal and external. Internally, you have a non-negotiable commitment to your new identity. Externally, you might have a mentor, a mastermind group, or just a friend you check in with. That external structure is the safety net that catches you when your internal motivation dips.
So when all of this is working together, what does that peak potential actually look like in our lives?
In your career, it means you're the one doing the deep, valuable work that actually gets you promoted, while everyone else is stuck in reactive email mode. You make better, faster strategic decisions because your PFC isn't exhausted.
In your health.
Your workouts and healthy eating are just what you do. They're automated. There's no daily battle of willpower because your identity as a healthy person is stronger than any momentary craving.
And in your relationships.
This one is huge. It means when you're with someone, you are with them. You have the trained ability to be fully present, to listen deeply, because you're not constantly fighting your own internal noise or the urge to check your phone. You're giving people the greatest gift you can, your full, undivided attention.
That's the real goal, the freedom to choose where you direct your attention and your energy.
That is the definition of being unstoppable.
Wow. What a journey. We started by admitting that our thoughts are mostly programmed. We dissected procrastination. We learned the neuroscience of willpower. And we got a blueprint for habit change and identity alignment.
The big lesson from Cole is that you have the biological tools to edit your own mental script. The failure isn't in your potential, it's just been in not having the right system. But now you do.
By understanding how these loops work, and by choosing to build new neural pathways through deliberate daily practice, you really can reclaim total control over your life's direction.
And that leads to the final provocative thought we want to leave you with. We've spent this whole time detailing the mechanism of programming. You now know, on a physical level, how your brain changes based on repetition. So here's the question. Now that you know how the machine works, are you willing to put in the deliberate daily repetition required to fully rewrite your script? The difference between knowing you can be unstoppable and actually being unstoppable is just consistency.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into self-mastery. We hope this knowledge serves as your blueprint for reclaiming your mind. We'll talk to you next time.